Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Inner Journey podcast. I am so happy to be doing this new session because, Loredana, we have a ton of questions for you. As usual, I'm here just to make sure that all of your questions get answered. So, without any further ado, I'm going to start with actually one of my favorite questions of all that we gotten, which is the following. Are you ready? You're ready. You're always ready. If the subconscious controls 95% of our decisions, how free is our free will?
Oh, this is a question actually that it was given to me, and I've heard it, over and over several times in my experience with different clients. And over the years, I basically understood that whenever clients are asking this type of questions, they are not necessarily interested to know the mere psychological issue, between subconscious and consciousness, the exact percentage and what is happening, but whether they are interested to know, am I really in control of my own life? Or how much am I really in control of my own life? Because everybody is talking nowadays about this illusion, this world that we are living in, being somehow a projection. So what I want to say is, I don't know exactly that it is 95 versus 5. And this doesn't even matter because what is really precise, and it is neuroscience, yes, it's a fact, is the fact that the subconscious mind can process 40 million bits per second versus the consciousness, which processes 40 beats per second. And I want to say this very clearly and slowly for people to understand that there is a huge difference. So, hence, the subconscious mind gain. Okay. And we understand now that we are not very much in control consciously. Okay. So, this being said, I want to discuss about the different perspectives of this. Yes, because we are not just psychological beings, okay? We are also social beings and we have our life in this society, in an environment. And how is this influencing our day to day life? Well, we know now from science that works like the discoveries that he did, Stanislav Denehay, if somebody knows about him, I can recommend, everybody can read it, can see it. He showed that basically the decisions are made already milliseconds before the consciousness can grasp it. Okay, so these are scientific facts and we cannot deny it. Afterwards, when we think that, and I just said it, that the subconscious mind is basically the one in control due to the speed of processing. What is the subconscious mind? And we know both of us, we had in the previous episode the talk about Bill Proctor. He was always drawing, this diagram with the subconscious mind. When the child is born, it's already open, yes, up until 7 years old to 11 years old, this is plainly open. So it does not close. And this means that basically in the first 7 years of your life, you are in this theta wave, in this hypnotical state. And what does this mean? You absorb absolutely everything. That's why to a child, if you say that the pig flies or, the panthers are pink or your unicorns or whatever, they believe in it. Because the subconscious mind doesn't have the capacity of making the difference between what we call reality, real, and what is not, okay? As it doesn't have also the notion of time and so on and so forth. So when you are imprinting in this subconscious mind, all that becomes afterwards, your programs, your habits, your beliefs, yes, this becomes the paradigm that you operate afterwards from. So where is the free will? We are basically running the show from the subconscious mind, from the paradigm that we have already formed all over the years. So I don't want to say that the free will is not at all in our hands, to choose. Rather, I would give you an example. When you go to a restaurant and you want to order pasta, let's say, you can only pick from the menu of that restaurant. Even if you want, lobster pasta, if they don't have it over there, so your free will is within the menu. The same, it's here, in your own life. So I would rather consider and advise, which is not my case here, but I would give this advice to people to understand that the most important thing here is not to think about how much free will I have or not, but to become consciously aware of the fact that you have the free will within this period of time that we call life, and you can consciously take it. When I am becoming aware of the paradigm that it's playing, yes, all the game, it's the boss, at the buttons, then I can take a decision consciously and say, this is what I want or not. And if we go from the spiritual point of view, then we know that the soul as an energy, in quantum, we can measure it now in terms of energy. So when it enters in this life, a soul, it's basically deciding everything before, parents, ancestral lines, the script, if you want, and all this expression of what it means, experience of lifetime, okay? And simultaneously, it has lots of experiences. So when it comes here, it has already a script, let's put it like this. So you have the free will within this script. It is given to you. It's the most beautiful gift that we here are gifted with at the beginning of our lifetime. So I would definitely go with, there is no burden in thinking that I am or not in control of my life, rather how much aware I can become when I take a decision. Okay? Because we have all these points touched already.
Got it. This makes sense, and it gives us a lot of freedom. So thank you for this answer. Now, because you know so much of so many aspects, some of our viewers now are asking a few questions that go more into the numerology side of things. So here's an interesting one. Can you actually read somebody's psychological wounds from their date of birth?
Well, I know how this sounds to a skeptical, but yes, you can. I was skeptical too. Many years back when I started as a hobby to study numerology, like I already put it in my book, Codex Numerologica, everybody can learn. Okay. And just to do a very quick, analysis, that's perfect. But this requires years and years. Okay. And actually, you do not take one number, Basically, this is a chart. It's a complete system, if you want. And you do not analyze one aspect as you do not analyze one organ, From the point of view of numerology itself, we can see from the life path, for example, which could be the wound. And I want to say that there is a correlation, with the Jungian psychology, basically with the Jungian archetypes, because he also was very interested and he studied the numerological systems. So I can give you, for example, a couple of digits as a life path. And in order for people to understand the life path, it's very simple to find out from the date of birth, adding the date of birth, the month and the year, up until you end up with a single digit number. So if you have 2-digit number, yes, or 3-digit number, then you just add them up until you remain with 1. With a certain exception, and I want to say that afterwards, and these are the so-called master numbers, and they are repeating digits, we call them, yes, because we do not work in numerology, but with digits. And I will explain it also why, because there's a huge history behind. So master numbers are 11, 22, 33, and so on and so forth. In the Western numerology system, also Pythagorean one, the one that I am using as a technique, I am going up until, let's say, 44 including, because from the date of birth altogether, these you may encounter, the 44, but it's very rare, as the others as well. So if we go, for example, with the life path of 1, now this we can call it as the hero, as the leader. And the match in the Jungian archetype, it's exactly the same, the hero. like the hero's journey, yes? Now, if we look into the wound of these people, these are usually the people that are not understood in their family. They are not seen, they are not recognized by their families. So, hence the pattern that they run all through their life to struggle, to strive, to demonstrate themselves all the time. Even though, as a trait of character, they are very gifted, they are the pioneers, they are the ones that are leading the way. And we can see it also numerologically from what is happening in the society, in the eras that we are living. In 1900, for example, if you add 1 and 9, you have a 1 here as well. So it was a huge period of discoveries. Yes. So this is what I'm talking about, a life path, for a 1. Many leaders, raised, many discoveries, many things that were, pioneering, yeah, for the huge, for the benefit of all humanity in the end. If we go further, for example, with the master numbers, if you add all the digits, as I said, and you end up with an 11 or with a 22 or with a 33, yes, then the story a little bit, changes. Because here, for example, I may say your date of birth, yes? If you add it, you end up with a 33.
Really?
Yes, really.
Okay.
It's interesting. And you do not go to, you can definitely end up with a 6, because 3 plus 3 will give you a 6. And here in numerology, we can understand it from the point of view of, the free will again of the human being. You have the possibility always to stay, to the level of the 6, which is the caregiver, the great nurturer, also in the Jungian archetype being the great mother, yes, the caretaker. So the 6 is the one that takes everyone under his wings, yes, or it has the possibility to raise up, to the 33, which means on a global scale. So if a simple digit life path number, let's put it like this, has to deal with his small community, yes, with his family, up until there, then these master numbers, they are having, in terms of an expression of destiny, let's put it like this, a bigger picture, yes, a bigger experience to deal with, yes, on a global scale. And therefore the 33, it's kind of a getting out of whatever Jungian archetype. It's beyond that, because it encompasses the archetype of the great prophet, which we find again, in the Jungian archetypes, and also the great builder, the master builder, which is the 22, if you add it. And it doesn't have any kind of comparison to the Jungian archetype, and moreover, because it wants to encompass, or it is meant to encompass, all the other archetypes. So, hence the wound that it carries. It wants to heal everyone, but it can't, because not everyone is ready. And this is something that, from a point of view of a person that is dealing with this, it accumulates a lot of frustration. And you may feel, you tell me if it's right, as a wound that you do not find yourself in any environment like, hey, finally here I match, I fit, I am okay. You feel from the beginning of your life that you kind of have a bigger purpose. You always want to go ahead, of whatever others, are. Okay? And you understand things differently. Isn't it? Because the 33, for example, encompasses what we call the experience with the knowledge, with the know. I know, I experience, and I acknowledge. Okay. So this is the sum of it. So it's much more difficult comparing to the 6 wound, yes, who is kind of not feeling very well when it's not everybody happy, when it tries to make peace everywhere. Churchill was saying that whenever we want to make peace, I will call a 6, because they are the people that do not take sides. Yes. But on the other hand, the wound, is when you cannot make that peace, then you're pissed off. Yes. So on a 33 level, they have it as a global scale. You want because you can. But then you have this thing that, hello, it's not the time. And I have to wait for everybody. And you do not live in a time frame that the others are living.
Got it. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
We can
And
go ahead with other lifetime path.
yeah.
If anybody is interested, we can just
Mm-hmm.
mention, the wounds. And for example, for the number 2,
Okay.
I think this is important because people can add this, the digits home and they can find it. Yes. The number 2 is the mediator.
Mm-hmm.
In the Jung's archetype, we have the animus anima here. And this mediator is the one that it's very diplomatic, okay? Difficult to take decision on one side, but it's this archetype of the mother, that it's protective, that it's there, for you. And it's always encountering the wound of the self-abandonment. I mean, it's always putting the interest of other in front of their own. And this is when you have these people that they kind of sacrifice their own interests in a relationship and they kind of lose themselves, yes? So this is the pattern basically. Now, the gift, it's the diplomacy, it's the empathy. They are very empathetic people, but on the other side, very sensitive, easily to be hurt, okay? It's like I say, it is the neck that carries the head. For life path number 3, for example, yes, here we encounter the artist, the creator, but also the child. The Jungian pattern here is the puero eternus. I mean, this the soul, of the child, the eternal child soul, that we all look for. And here the wound would be that he is not understood, he's not heard. He cannot be heard. He's blocking his own expressivity because of that. And hence the great artists, like when they did something and then they wanted to crash it all because they self-blocked themselves. Yes. So when you are a 3, you always have this pure soul of the child. And you have this pattern, of looking always to stay in your alignment. Okay. And also it's important to let go of your creativity. Okay? Here it's also another debate with the female and male energy here, but we will talk it on another lesson. Let's put it like this, yes? The gift is the communication. They are great communicators. They are great organizers, yes? This chakra, of the communication is very open for them, so they can work in different jobs like that. If we go to the life path number 4, here we have the square, because numbers, I see them as 3D patterns, as 3D manifestations. So you cannot look at a number just from the point of view of what you write as a symbol on a piece of paper or quantitative, measure. And I want to mention a little bit of history here in a second. So the 4, the builder, is the square. So if you go to the square, you see here that they are kind of, always going in a loop, somehow like in a loop, okay? So here the wound is the instability in the initial structure, like in the family, for example. And if you go to the Jungian archetypes, here you have the shadow. So these people from early ages, they feel like a shadow and they are looking for stability. They feel like they want to create stability in their own family, and they feel that they kind of owe to their members of the family, their commitment and to take care of them, all the time. Hence the gift that they have, the discipline and the structure all the time. But here the pattern is the control, the rigidity. They stay in this, pattern of the 4. If we go forward with the 5th, life path, now here is the trickster in the Jungian archetype, and I like it because the trickster is basically the one that it's tricking himself. Okay, it's on the other side, the explorer, as I like to call it, the Socratian aspect, the Socratian pattern, if you want, the one that is looking for freedom. But here the wound is that they think they are trapped and they want, as a parent, to run away from this, under this mask, under this excuse that is, I don't want to be in a cage and I want to look for my freedom. Yes. This is basically fear disguised, with this beautiful address, of freedom, of exploring. But basically these people are running this pattern of running away. They are running from commitments. They are running from relationships. They are running away due to the fact that they are afraid to stay committed. And here is, the trick for them. The more you run, the less you feel the freedom. Because here the paradox is that they will feel basically, or they will have the key, the resolution, for their life path exactly when they stand still. So this is basically the so-called experience, given for themselves. Okay. So yes, they like to travel, they like to explore, they are amazing, discoverers, but on the other hand, they need to stay still. When they stay still, this is exactly when the freedom will reveal itself. Yes. So you don't have to run anywhere. And we mentioned already the life path number 6, which is the caregiver, the nurturer, the mother. This is the great archetype, the Jungian archetype, which is the great mother, the caretaker. And this feels, that has the duty somehow of taking care of everybody, every member, every single person, in a community. So, as I said, they are restless up until everything is in order as they think, but they demand a lot from everybody and from themselves. Okay. And when these aspects are not fulfilled, they feel sad, they feel depressed. And this is, when they are gathering this resentment. Yes, this builds up. And, when resentment is built up 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, then at some point it explodes. And the wound here is that they do not want to let go. They kind of carry, everyone's pain, everyone's life path, if you want. They feel responsible for everybody. If we go ahead with the life path number 7, now here, the 7, they say in many other cultures that it's the divine number, the number of God. We have it, hence the 7 wonders of the world, the 7 weeks and all this. So 7, it's kind of a miraculous number, okay, miraculous digit. But here in the Pythagorean system, 7, it's basically the alignment with the source. So the Jungian archetype here is very interesting, because if I go and I see it, is the wise old man. It's interesting, isn't it? But this wise old man, it's kind of I can say it like a wound here, like punished to retract from the world, to stay in his own intimacy. But on the other hand, to feel that he does not fit anywhere. So it's kind of recognizable in the 33 pattern, isn't it? So these people, it's not that they don't feel that they are understood. They don't feel fit with the other one. If you want, it's also like an observer. It's the kind of guy, that you see in a party that observes everyone and everything. And when you want to ask what happened at that party, you go to that person, because it will never, it's not escaping anything from them. But they are profoundly and deeply intimate, with their own soul, with their own side of an essence, if you want. And if we go to the traits, the 7 is profoundly intelligent. So here you see in our culture, we have this poem of the great poem Luciferul, it is called. Yes, this is the brightest star in the sky. So here the poet was basically talking about an impossible love between a human being and a star. So this star, the demiurge, yes, the god, if you want, it's cold from the understanding of the human being. So the same, these people can be perceived as cold, but they have a different kind of love, a different kind of understanding, which goes beyond what the others may call simple love in their understanding, in the 7th understanding. Going forward to the 8. Now, everybody knows that the 8 may resemble the infinite. So what goes up, goes down, and all, repeats itself in loops and loops. So here for these people, they are basically the leaders, the great managers. Yes, they manage everything. And the one here is that they feel from very early age, due to this energy that they bring, into this life, they feel powerless. And maybe if they are born also in families that are not necessarily so self-sustained, so wealthy, let's put it like this, they feel kind of reduced, blocked, or maybe a pressure, from the perspective of the financial view. Okay, they feel that they are also emotionally in control. I mean, controlled by the family, not in control as a wound, but they need to stay in control on a later stage. They are the people that always crave control. Therefore, they have this gifts, of abundance, for example, of managing, great companies and big CEOs and all this. You see them with the 8. Now, what I want to say here is that these people, they are restless. They are all the time, they need, all the time to be in action and to go to do something, yes, because they see the detail and they also see the global picture. So it's very boring for one with an 8 path to stay and to have patience for all the others. So they kind of have to deal with their own patience, with their own thoughts, okay? The mind, it's never stopping in these cases, yeah? Now, when we go to the 9 path, life path, now here we have the complete martyrhood. And here we encounter the wounded healer, if you want. It's something that matches completely and fully the Jungian archetype. Yep. It's the one that it's sacrificing, that it's giving to everyone everything, and hence the wound, yes? If you sacrifice yourself for the love of others, then at some point you run this pattern, of martyrhood that affects you, and you are not quite happy with how the world is. When you look at the world, how you would like it to be, and you see that it's different from what you envision, then there is, this paradox. It's always like in between 2 worlds, 2 realities, if you want, yes? And they are there to help everyone, to give a hand. Like I met, for example, people that they were telling me, okay, they come, they discuss with everything, and you tell, wow, how beautiful is your blouse? Ah, you like it? Okay, it's yours, you can have it. Oh, no, I don't want it now. So they are so selfless, okay? And this, in time, leads to this martyrhood. So their gift, it's this universal compassion. And it's difficult for them to cope with this world that especially nowadays we live in, yeah? The life path, like I will go very quickly with 11 and with 22. Here we have also something that we call the Jungian archetype of the prophet. Hence, the great prophets, yes, of our cultures, of the humanities culture, of humanities religion, yes, and also Jesus, In some understandings, he was the Son of God, he was in others a prophet, but yet he had this 11 path, and this means that is the great teacher. It's the biggest sacrifice, because they are very sensitive people. They are misunderstood from the beginning of their life. They may be interpreted like being weak, but because they sense and they feel absolutely everything, they are the perfect empath, if you want. Now, they feel misunderstood themselves, okay? They have this path of healing, of teaching the population, but on the other hand, they self-doubt themselves due to the fact that they are not believed. They kind of run through this lifetime, of being accused, or nowadays being labeled, like maybe autistic, maybe with anxiety, with ADHD, with so many labels, whereas they are just empaths, fully, completely, okay? And just because they do not sense what we sense, they are labeled wrong. Okay. Now, if we go to a 22, here again, we see the visionary, the great builder, yes, the master builder. And here we have this Jungian archetype of the old wise man and the prophet together. Yes, like the 9 and the 11. But these people, again, they have this wound of self-doubt, of the impossible standards, like they feel misunderstood from the point of view of having a great vision for the world. Being the great builder, yes, these people they are visionaries. They have, or they see in terms of the world, a totally different development from what the regular population may see. And when you go far ahead and when you see something or you have a vision that not everybody is sharing, then definitely you do not feel that you are fitting in the same community. Yes, you have different ideas. You may be seen like, hey, a pariah, like the story that I always say, the ugly duck, which was and turned to be a swan. So this is, here the pattern of these people. They are far ahead as a visionary. And the 33 that I already mentioned, 11 plus 22. Now here is this one that is wounded because he cannot heal everyone, just because not everybody is ready. What I want to underline from here is that not everybody now has to learn and to study numerology, but I want to specify and to underline the fact that numerology was not and is not a science that was born out of nowhere. The Babylonians, for example, they ran a lot of studies, we may call them now, but they were observation at that time. They were observing the environment, they were observing the sky, they were observing the behavior of people, and they noticed that in certain lunar cycles, for example, people had patterns, had something in common, and then they labeled it with certain symbols that nowadays we call numbers. Numbers, they are not just simple graphics, on a piece of paper. I want people to understand and to see the numbers like developments, like geometrical developments, if you want. Like, for example, a 3 can be a triangle. But what does it mean, a triangle? In Kabbalah, we go and we see that it is the Trinity. Yes. In religion, like Christianism and nowadays Catholicism and all this, that is split, we have the Father, the Spirit, and the Son. Okay. So if we develop the 3, it is already the creator with the symbolic mother, father, yes, creation, yes, that comes together and gives the end result, which is the son, the daughter. So hence the 3 life path that we said, the child, the eternal child in the Jungian archetype. So numbers seen like that is a continuous study. Even if we go beyond, and we go into the science, we understand that, for example, numbers, when you add them together, a 1, let's go with the 1. It's coming from different adding digits. It's not just 1 and 0. For example, the 10, you can obtain it from 1 plus 0, but also from a 1 and a 9. So they are different aspects. They bring with them patterns, aspects. We human beings, we are patterns in ourselves, yes, with our beliefs, with our encoded ancestral lines, yes. So I hope I am explicit enough.
Yes, it makes sense. So if we connect this with our first question, basically we can understand that these life paths, considering that we choose everything that happens to us, right? So the life path has been chosen as well, right? And then this, is it correct that we understand this life path as a sort of the menu that we have to choose from, right?
It's something like that.
These are the constraints under which we express our free will, so to say. So in order to express your life path, you have to choose some degree of trauma or of of a wound, so to say. And it's not bad. What I'm understanding from you is, because we always say, oh, I've been wounded, I've been through trauma, or something happened in my childhood. The idea is we need that in order to fulfill, in a way, our life paths. We could not experience what we came here to experience if we don't go through that initial period to start with. Isn't it better to look at it like that than to always say, oh, poor me, look what happened?
Absolutely. If you go and you cry on your own shoulder, you will never go ahead, because I've said it many times. We are not coming here to awaken. We are coming here to evolve. But even the evolution in itself, it's an illusion. And we have to understand everything from the perspective of the creation itself. When we go back, again, through the numbers, through the numerology system, yes?
Yeah.
Everything at the beginning was a one, a singularity, or a zero if you want. We in our culture and now everywhere else, it is found, it's the Ouroboros symbol. This dragon that eats its own tail. Okay, so this Ouroboros, it's basically the symbol of singularity, of the infinity that it's expressing itself through all this, that means creation, in order to end up eating its own tail. I mean, it's expressing itself and it's evolving in itself. But basically, there is no evolution because, even in tarot, if you go and you make this comparison, the zero card, it's the fool. It's something that you, if you think about it with this mind, from this perspective, from this dimension, from the three-dimensional world, you end up being crazy. Okay, something that we label now with all these illnesses, and so many discoveries are made nowadays. So going back to our discussion here, we need to understand that the source, the primordial source of all that was ever created, it's like the point, let's put it like this, the one, yes, or the zero you want. It had to know it, so there was no mirror, there was nothing else but this source. So how can me now, the source, yes, know myself? How can I understand who am I? What am I? But through the creation of another self, of a copy of me, of a mirror of me. So from zero, it became the one. So this is the beginning. But this zero that now looks to the one and sees from that perspective, knows now, or it's understanding into a reflection that, hey, I am what I am. I am, what I am. Yes? But now the one, the second, yes, the copy wants also to discover what and who it is. You understand? And then the process, it's hello, who am I? And this is when you have the two. It's not the three, it's the two. Now the two again wants to discover what am I, and so on and so forth. And here you have this huge spiral that if you go into the Fibonacci, yes, hence the discovery of the Fibonacci, you understand that this creates also the pattern of the flower of life. And everything repeats itself, but not from the same point. When I was in the university, we had the history of philosophy and philosophy of cultures and all this humanity, from all times up until now. And there they were always saying this concept that history repeats itself, yes, but not identical from the same point. So when you repeat a cycle, you repeat it, but you are from here, you are here. You are on another level. When we think about there is no space and no time, when I take the time now from you, from everyone, what does it remain? When I take the space, what does it remain? Some may answer nothing. Some may answer everything. So you see the paradox of the zero. The zero contains all the other numbers. This is the beauty of numerology. Because the zero is the circle, is the point. If I look at it, from this perspective, that is very narrow, yes, my detailed one, and I'm very, very closed. Or if I go from the global picture, I may see it as a circle, but also as a point in the same time, which can become the center of the circle. And all these points and circles, yes, they are, if you want, develop all this dimensionality, all these multiverses that now the quantum physics comes to show that they are real. Because when we go, for example, in everything that is the field, yes, and now scientifically, we understand that everything that is in the shape of a wave. Hence what Tesla was saying. When you want to understand the universe, think in terms of frequency, and so on and so forth. So when we go there, the wave exists up until an observer appears, and this wave collapses into a particle. And yet, one plus the observer ends up with a three, yes, which is the child, which is what the reality, the created outcome. And this is how we understand manifestation as well. Okay? We always manifest. Everything that we are living now, it's manifested by us. I don't like what I live. Okay, then I must change something over there. Okay? So we do not have to see the free will as a constraint. Yet we need to see it as a possibility of evolution within this experience. But I need to be aware. I need to become consciously aware of, hello, now I am, who is this I? I am the one, that it's running the life, not my subconscious mind, because many people, they are thinking wrongly that they are leading their own lives. They are the ones that are creating, they are the rulers of their own lives. Okay, and that they have, the free will. And we will go on, with this if you want. But here, the free will, it's not a constraint. It's really free will. But as you said, within the experience that the soul wants to experience. Okay?
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
it
not
makes sense.
limited. It's infinite, but infinite within this. Okay?
Yes. So the more we know ourselves, and this is why the know thyself part that we always get to in the end, this is why it's so, so important. So now you touched on manifestation. And it's very difficult for somebody who has anxiety and has, anxious episodes all the time to really take responsibility for the fact that that anxiety that stems from within and apparently is caused by something in the outside world is actually something that is manifested. So let's talk a little bit about anxiety in two aspects. One, if it's really me who manifested this, including, this reality that makes my anxiety go up, how can I stop it, first of all? Because if I'm anxious, I cannot manifest anything else, right? I just see more anxiety. So wherever I look, there's, whatever wave is there waiting for me to manifest, I'm just going to do more of anxiety. So one, how do I stop anxiety? And two, once it's stopped, how do I reverse this and start manifesting something that I really like?
It's very good, that you brought this onto the table, because there are so many people, especially kids, nowadays. And I also have, my own child nowadays. And the anxiety can be the best friend of these kids, due to the system, due to the educational system, due to the system altogether of work and so on and so forth. When you have a lot of pressure, of course, you are feeling this anxiety that forces you to provide the correct answers in a test, to provide the correct results, in the field of work. Mm-hmm. And yet, anxiety is not good in a long term. Okay. Now you mentioned, why do I feel anxious? Okay, anxiety is something that comes very loud. First of all, everybody can recognize it because it is there and it always repeats itself. Every 5 minutes, there is another perspective of the same story. And it gives you all the time more and more and more to deal with. So therefore, it's like a loop, that you go all the time, and it gives you the feeling that you cannot escape it. You don't even know that you are anxious. Many people, that I have encountered, they were telling me that, no, I'm not anxious, okay? But basically, this is what is happening. It's your defense, it's your alert mechanism, basically. It's the amygdala, from the brain. And this amygdala, it's always, there. And it's making your system always to be alert, yes? Like you need to defend yourself from something. And this makes more adrenaline, to pour, more cortisol to pour, in your system. So definitely you will feel like you are run by a tiger, okay? Because the brain, this is what it understands, okay? It always, its purpose is, to provide the best techniques, the best things in order to preserve life and to keep you safe. This is the only thing that the system knows to do, because we are like a system. Now, in terms of why does it appear anxiety? Anxiety, it's also something that runs, over and over and over your old patterns. It's against your wounds, against your traumas, against everything that once happened to you in your life and you do not even recognize. Again, you end up thinking in the past. Because when we are in the present, we think that we live the present moment, but the mind, it's operating the future and the past in the same time simultaneously now. And this is, it's a fact. In neurofeedback, when we do, the brain mapping, we can see all these brain waves, happening in the same time. They are not only alpha waves or just beta waves or just, so on and so forth. They are all, patterns that we can see, they are happening simultaneously. So what does this tell us? That the brain operates in the same time, the present, the future, and the past, but now. So the unconscious mind, as we said, don't forget, it's the speed, processing the information, it's 1 million much quicker than the consciousness. So we cannot grasp what the decision, it's already, and also, there are works that are telling us, also scientific works that are telling us that the decisions are already made milliseconds before our consciousness can even grasp them. Okay, so we don't even make these decisions; they are already done by something. What is that something? So you end up being anxious for what? When you know all these things, then the only gift that you can do to yourself is to breathe, to turn back to your breath always. And this is how you break this loop. But you need to become aware of the fact that you are anxious. Okay. And there are several techniques, we can talk about it, that can instantly break, this pattern when you feel it. Okay. For example, when you are in a test, when you are in front of a camera, when you have to speak, many people, are dealing with that. We can talk about this later. Now, anxious people, they tend to be overruled, loaded, with problems. Okay? Why is this? Because all your subconscious mind, which is your body, it's doing one thing: defending. Okay? As if there is a very big danger in front of you. Okay? So think about it. I am safe now, here. There is no need. You need to change, to shift your state of mind. But many people talk about doing it like, how do I shift this thing? Well, I said it already. It is the breath. And I already put, in Codex Ritualia, a lot of breath techniques, very simple, that one can do. But the easiest one is just breathe in, breathe out with eyes closed. When you close your eyes, instantly you go into the alpha state. So you shift from beta, which is this alertness state, yes, to alpha. When you are more creative, when you are more in tune with who you really are as an essence. Okay?